I'm real loud about being a CEO. I'm real loud about there's videos of me like grinding and like holding bottles in my hand like on our page, because it's just like I need people to see me so that they know they can do this stuff too.
Yeah.
And all of the things that, you know, I've gotten an opportunity to do, I just want I want to be visible, and not visible for solely my own gain. I always say, like, again, authenticity to me is selfish, and I do have to be like authentic. That's a part of the selfishness that exists, but it's also it's for everybody around me.
Welcome to another episode of the Get Through It podcast. Well, actually, we changed the name. Listen, I just got tired of people introducing me, being like, oh, hey, this is my friend. He has a podcast called Plurawl. Yo, let me introduce you to my boy. He got a podcast, Plurawl. Well, whether you say it in English or Spanish, that's the name of the company, the brand, the app is not the name of the podcast. And because I didn't have a separate social media account for Quien Tú Eres, and I only had social media for the company, there was a lot of confusion. Like, what's this? What's that? I'm like, you know what? Let me just merge these things, because it's a lot for people to remember two different names. Let me get them focused and remember Plurawl or Plurawl, however you want to say it. So we renamed the podcast, but don't worry, it's the same concept. It's the same mission. We are still on a mission to redefine professionalism. And I think it's a timely opportunity to bring this back. In fact, the last time I published an episode of this podcast was August 2024. And the wild thing was that if you bring it back 4 years prior, August 2020 is when we launched the podcast and published the first episode. And if you remember anything about 2020, there was a lot of fear and uncertainty in the air wherever you were in the world. And I think these days, in the US in particular, there is a lot of fear and uncertainty, especially for certain communities. So I think it's important now more than ever to give y'all representation and show you people that are doing the damn thing, killing it at work, while being their most authentic self. Because if it's one thing that I learned over the past 4 years, is that one of the reasons why people stop faking it and finally feel a little bit more comfortable being their most authentic self is when they see themselves reflected in someone else. They almost feel like they get permission to be themselves. They say, well, if they're being themselves and they do that for work, then why can't I do it? And if you're struggling with that self-discovery process and you need a little bit more help and guidance, well, that's why we built our app. It's an AI thought partner that is created to help you identify and overcome whatever limiting beliefs you're holding on to, like when you're jumping to conclusions. But enough about the name change, the app. Let's get into the clip that you heard in the intro. That is with this week's guest, Shaque'l. And Shaque'l and I actually used to work at TikTok together. She was one of the first faces that I saw at TikTok. And when I saw her, instantly felt more comfortable. Speaking of that representation, I saw her and was like, ooh, maybe this is a place for me. We had a really dope conversation, which I'm excited for you to listen to. If you want more context into Shaque'l, aka the six-figure chick, be sure to check out the show notes of this week's episode. That includes her full bio. But for now, let's get into this dope conversation. So I typically start off with the word authenticity, right? It's a buzzword. You probably hear it all the time. When you hear the word, what comes to mind for you? What does it mean?
Being a little selfish. I think when I think authenticity, I think being selfish. Selfish because I get to do what I want, present how I want, engage how I want. And it's not my responsibility to like own other people's experience. And so I get to be selfish in that moment. And it's so good for me. And as women, and especially as Black women, women of color, I always think that we struggle with being selfish. It's always selflessness. Do for others, be for others, don't be too loud. And this is, when I think of authenticity, I think of like selfishness in the most positive of ways, in a way that most people don't think about.
Do you think growing up you were allowed to be selfish?
No. I'm an eldest daughter. I'm a firstborn. I'm the only daughter. Absolutely not. I am the project manager of the family. And so, you know, I've spent my entire life taking care of my siblings and love my babies. Everybody's, you know, great. But I do not have any kids. But my mother tells me Happy Mother's Day every year because I have 3 kids. I have a 9. Well, he's just turned 10. I have a 10-year-old, I have a 25-year-old, and I have a 44-year-old. So.
Okay, so tell me about where you grew up, when you grew up. What was it like being that oldest sibling?
Yeah. So I'm a Texas girly. I'm from Texas, a little small town called Waco. Y'all please don't Google it. Don't watch the Netflix documentary.
Too late. Too late.
Like too late. But I'm from Waco, and so my mom was a single mom. Y'all heard me say 44, so my mother had me really young, and so my mom was trying to grow up while I was also growing up, and so she had my middle brother at 19, and so at 7 I became a big sister. But this is, still to a single mom who's out here. My mom grinds. She's done every job. She's driven forklifts, built so all of the things. Mom stands 5'4". She's a very small human and has done all of these things. And so that's great. But it just wound up resulting in me kind of like raising my little brother. And eventually she went to school. She did the things she was supposed to, right? Go to school, get the degree. She got into the healthcare industry, which is great. We're very proud of her. But when you get into working at the hospital, you're the newbie, you're working overnight. So again, we get back into that space of after school, I'm their person. You know what I'm saying? I'm TJ's person. And when Aiden got here, I'm Aiden's person. And so it's great. I love her. She worked very, very hard. It does not take away from the fact that like I was a parentified child. So I've been raising people my entire life. But it was, it's a little low Waco. It was cool. I was a little latchkey kid. It worked out.
Tell me more about that experience of being their person, right? I'm imagining picking up from school, taking them after school. Were you the parent teacher representative? Like, how far did these go?
Yeah, so all of the things at home were my responsibility. I wouldn't say that I ever had to go like physically into school for either of my baby brothers, but definitely the person that at home, I'm the person cooking dinner. My mother, love that woman. She cannot cook. My mom makes like 4 meals really good, and one of them is like Dorito casserole. So that should tell you everything you need to know. She meant well. She meant well. But
So are you saying you throw down?
maybe yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. I don't be in the kitchen. I'm mac and cheese. This is my specialty. I am always the person that brings the mac and cheese to the function. Been that way for years. I take pride in my mac and cheese. But yeah, no. So I'm a cooker. So all of the things, homework, making sure that he gets in bed on time, running bath water, all those things, getting him up for school in the morning, making sure he's dressed, making sure he gets on the school bus. Like that has just always been, my thing. And my baby brother, I was in my 20s, early 20s when he was born. So I didn't have as much of an experience with him with that. But my middle brother that's why I say 1 versus 2 is that at the time it was just TJ. But yeah, I am their person. Something is going on. You need help with whatever, it is going to be me. But school related stuff, like physically going into school, my mom still did. But where I'm from, we go to the same school your whole life. So I am a 13-year Conley cadet. Like
Really?
From pre-K to 12th grade, I went to the same school, just different buildings down a street kind of thing. So
that's funny. So it was like everybody knew everybody kind of town?
Absolutely. Everybody knows everybody. It's in Lacey Lakeview. Like we're from Waco, but the smaller part is Lacey Lakeview. Probably has a population of like 5,000 or something. We are not big city people.
That's funny. What about, I think this idea of family at a young age is so early because there are also expectations around how you should be showing up. Like you're representing the family kind of thing. So even from like a personal identity or style, like were there certain expectations on like how you should be as well?
All the time. My mom says you're a reflection of me. And I took that into my adulthood and I said that to a friend of mine once. Like I was like, you're a reflection of me when you go out. Don't be embarrassed of me. And I was just like, oh, you're kind of like Shannon.
Yo, that's so funny that she said. It's funny because it's not even like, yo, of us. She's like, no, of me.
It is me. And it really influenced a lot of like things. So my mom, I look like what I look like. It's funny. So I make TikToks and stuff all the time. So people kind of see me from here up. So anytime I do like a full body TikTok, people are like, not you got on this body. I came for the job of the day. I stayed for the body. So I've always looked like this. And so my mom as a kid, like we'd go clothes shopping and pants fit. And she's like, great, get them the next size up. Shirt fits, get it the next size up. So like my entire life has been be a good reflection, but I've got a mom who had a kid at 14. She got pregnant at 13. She had a kid at 14. And so she went through that experience with her parents of you're a reflection of me and this makes us look bad that you had this kid so young. So she took that and you're now a reflection of me. And so the way that I dressed, all of the things, like I made a post the other day talking about my DOO. She thought we couldn't do something. And so we've been killing on this project we're working on. And I was like, I live off of spite. And I realized that it's technically not a lie. Like as a kid, like all of the things were like out of spite. Like, I'm gonna get great grades out of spite, because like you're telling me what I can or can't do. I'm gonna get great grades and I'm gonna be great in sports and I'm gonna be really smart so I can go to college and I can leave this house. Like I love my mom today. We are a decade past that time, but at the time it was just like the reflection of you, the weight of the ownership of being who this family is seen as is too much for me, and I gotta go do something else.
So you felt that pressure,
yeah,
and you kind of wanted to, in some ways, I'm sure you didn't know at the time of like escape it in somehow. When did
Eventually,
you start?
it was escape. Eventually, it was like I knew in high school, like I was like, I don't want to be here. Like I intentionally was like, I'm not going to a local community college because I want to get away from my mom. Like I want to get away from, and not my mother in general, but like the pressure of being here and being the person. And I am everybody's call. Like my mom just called me the other day about a cruise. And was like, how do I find out if they have payment plans? And I'm like, my mom's like 45. My mom can use a computer. And she's like, how do I know? And I'm just like, what do you mean? How do you know? Like, so it's just like, I'm going to go. And so I did. I left. I went to school 3 hours away just so that way I could be like by myself and get out of the space of being everyone's scapegoat, everyone's go-to. Tootie will handle it. Tootie will take care of it. Tootie will get it done kind of person.
Tootie, hold up. What's that?
That's my
That's a
family.
nickname? Where'd that come from?
The little girl off of Facts of Life.
Okay.
Was Tootie, yeah. And so my mama, apparently I had a birthmark and I had a birthmark on the back of my leg that looked like a pork chop, and my mom wanted to call me pork chop. But my dad was like, you're not naming my baby after a piece of meat. So he landed on Tootie, and that's what it's been ever since.
Yo, that's so funny. But that's so interesting that even like that memory of you shopping with your mom and buying clothes that are oversized to hide your body.
Yeah.
Like did that shape your relationship? Like how did that shape your relationship with your body at an early age?
I think it made things really difficult. One, I wanted to be rebellious. Like I deleted the photos since, but like I can go find pictures on like MySpace or Facebook, whatever, that's like in things that I'm like, why did you ever put this on? But it was rebellion. It was, I can't even wear jeans that fit me. When I put on this bathing suit, I'm taking pictures in it. Like the pictures are going on the internet. My therapist even, we were talking about it and she was just like, my mom has always told me I'm beautiful. My mom has always told me how much she loves me and how pretty I am. And she's always like, even if you weren't my baby, I'd tell you you're so beautiful and da-da-da, like all of these things. And then my therapist was like, right, but then you have her on the other hand like policing you and telling you what to wear and how you can present, and that's got to be really difficult to just internally kind of like deal with. And so I find myself, even to this day, I tell everybody either I look like a pastor's wife or I look like I'm going to like a Megan Thee Stallion concert. I don't know anything in between. Like nice little in betweens. Either it's like I like this very, I don't know, like middle age, like middle fees, like rich black woman vibe, or I'm like, I'm gonna go throw my ass. This is all I can do with a conference. We did a conference earlier this year and I was trying to figure out like stage outfits, and I was just like, if y'all let me choose, I'm gonna look like y'all are gonna introduce me as first lady. I'm telling you right now. Somebody else pick the outfits, please.
That's so funny. So what happened when you went away? Because all right, I'm imagining there is a level obviously of freedom where you're just like, fuck it, rebellious, I'm gonna do what I want. But at the same time, like when you first start doing what you want, there probably is like, oh my God, how are people gonna perceive me?
Yeah, how are people gonna receive this? It took me a while. So even when I first went away, I gained a lot of weight. Like I feel like I gained my freshman 15, my senior.
Oh, yeah,
and
that happens. Yeah.
So I went from being like very slim, abs, to just not that, and my body was really confused and I did not know what to do with that. So it took me a few years still. I would say summer 2019 was the year that like I lost a little bit of weight and I figured out how to like dress, and I got the right glasses because I used to wear these like little thin like rectangle glasses. I got the right
I cannot imagine you in that.
I will have to find a picture and show you because it is crazy. Every time I see it, I'm like, who is this? But like, I finally figured everything out in summer 2019. I did everything I wanted to, like so much so to the point I wound up dating someone the year after, and my mom was like, she's like, Tootie, did you tell him how you are in the summer? And I was like, what does that mean? She's like, put him on the phone. She's like, let me let you know something. Summertime Shaque'l is not fall Shaque'l, okay? Be prepared.
What's that mean? I mean, summer is when cover season's over. Is that what she's saying? Like you be in the streets, you be outside?
I had body. I was outside. The outfits, the photo shoots, the concerts. I was in Houston every other weekend. I don't live there. So like that to me was like, that's when the real like, it wasn't necessarily rebellion at that point. It was just like, I'm coming into my body. I know how to dress it. I feel good about this. And I did. I never had clothes on. Like I was like, I'm not wearing anything. And still, I think my style is like pulled in a little bit more. I'm a little, I wouldn't say conservative, but the style is still a little bit more conservative now, because at the time it was like thong bikinis everywhere. Don't care.
Okay.
I don't know where I'm going. I'm wearing them kind of thing. And so that was when I finally got my like actual time to rebel. But in college and things, I wore sweatpants because I had gained a lot of weight, and so it took me time to get there. And even then, my mom now, so I have for you today, I wore a bra because I was like, you know what, we're about podcasts, let me try to do whatever. Like in any of my TikTok content, if you look at it, I never have a bra on, and I made a video.
Interesting.
very demure, very mindful thing. In a Slack to one of my employees, I said, very something, very Shaque'l. And I was like, we are making a video of this. So I made a video that was like very authentic, very Shaque'l, da 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 da. And so we did it. No bra on. Like 6 comments were like, no bra, very Shaque'l. And I was like, y'all aren't wrong. So my mom to this day is like, Tuda, you should wear a bra in your content. I'm like, why would I do that? I don't wear a bra on like a daily basis. Like this is, so those are my little pieces of, this is still how I share my authenticity, but the rebellion has passed. We made it.
We made it. Yo, but college is such an interesting time too, because here you are like discovering yourself, finding yourself, not only finding it, you like, I found it and I'm comfortable in it, right? But that's also the time when you start thinking about career. You start maybe exploring internships. Like, what were you even thinking around, like, this is what I kind of want to do or explore? Like, what was it?
None of the things I'm doing now. I always thought I was going to be a teacher. I wanted to be a coach. I really love sports, so I'm a sports girly. I played
What kind of coach? Oh, volleyball. Okay, basketball.
Yeah, I ran track. Yeah, I'm from a part of a 3-time state-winning track team. Like, I love sports.
Okay.
So I always thought I was going to be a coach. So I did that for the first couple of years and then was like, no, I don't like this. And then at that point was just confused. I didn't know what I wanted to do and I didn't know what degree that I should get. So I just kind of kept staying. And so I spent 7 years in college for no reason. I took college credits in high school. I should have been done with school in like 3 years. 7 years in college for no reason. Just one class here or there, here and there. And eventually, like, my degree is in forensic psychology.
Really?
This is nothing to do with what I do now, but it's a passion. So I really love, like, I'm a criminal minds girly. Like, I'm one of those people. And so I was like, you've been in school this long. You do need to go ahead and finish up your degree, get something that you want. So I spent my last year and a half taking all the classes that interest me. And that was it. But I started out wanting to be a teacher.
That's dope, because so many people go to college just with, like, they take classes just with the idea of like, this is gonna help me get a job, but you were like, I'm taking classes that I want to learn.
I'm going to take the things that I want to learn about. I want to spend my time figuring out what makes people tick and what thoughts are going on for them and what are these things. And it works out. It's good for my job now, right? It's good for my career that I have now. I work in the sales space. And so the psychology helps me move people where I need them to go. But the forensic part was just for fun. That was just for funsies.
So you started in sports, and then when did you realize you wanted to pivot, and what did you want to pivot into?
2 years in, I realized I wanted to pivot, and I didn't know what I wanted to pivot into. This is gonna be the lamest excuse for why I would change like roles, but I had to take a foreign language, and I didn't want to.
That's fair.
It's just like, you want me to take 3 years of a foreign language? In my head, it was gonna be so hard, and I was like, I'm not gonna do this. So
wait, why did you have to take a foreign language?
I said I'd already taken my classes in high school. So again, I took dual credit classes. Like, I was, again, fairly smart kid. I've been taking classes like 7th grade of pre-whatever in my entire last 2 years of high school. Most of my classes were dual credit. I got my Spanish credit. I did not need to take another class, but if I wanted to get, I think I was going to major in history to be a history teacher. And then I could do the coaching thing as a part of it. But I was going to major in history. In order to be a history major, that's an art. In order to be an art major, you have to take 3 years of a foreign language, and I didn't want to.
This was still in college where you were thinking about like what to study even.
Yeah, no, this was like, what was I going to do with my life? I was going to school to figure out what the hell I was going to do with my life. Like, work has never aligned with anything I was going to school for. I've worked in construction. I have worked in medical transcription. I've worked in x-rays. I've worked in like so many different things. So I've never had a path. A thing that I realized that I thought later on was so interesting was that everywhere I worked, I was always coming up with ideas of like how to make how to make things easier. And not from an operations standpoint, but my brain, I worked at a cardiologist's office, and we used to have to call patients at the end of the day to confirm they were going to come in the next day. And I wrote out an entire, in my mind, business plan of how I could start a business that I would go market to these doctors' offices where I could have someone make the calls for them, do the thing, start calling I do that everywhere I work. So I spent a lot of time in the medical industry, and I started to go to school. When I originally started the school that I went to get my degree, I started going to school for health information technology management or something like that. So that was where I started, but I was just like, you don't want to do this. And I didn't want to do the thing I wound up getting a degree. I'm just like, you don't want to do this. So I did work that paid me, and then I figured out how to like scale, and I kept doing that, but school never aligned with work for me.
So you always wanted to be an entrepreneur? It sounded like at an early...
I don't think I realized it, but yes. Like, I think I was just like, solution. I'm very solution oriented. You bring me a problem, I'll bring you a solution. I'm that kind of person. It sucks for my friends because I'm like, do you want to vent or do you want to problem solve? Like, which thing are we doing? But I think it just was like, I'm bored and I'm agitated having to do this thing I'm doing right now. How can I solve this problem for them? And I didn't have the wherewithal to truly put something together and bring it to them. And 21, 22, in my head, this was like a 40-something-year-old Shaque'l dream, not that I would be a full-time CEO at 30.
Why do you think it was like a 40-year-old thing?
I didn't understand. I just didn't think that that was normal. In my mind, CEOs were one, older white men. Two, keyword here, older. In my mind, it was just, you don't do this at, I didn't understand that like people, Mark Zuckerbergs of the world, that were like these younger, early 20s folks, 30s folks that were launching these big companies, these companies that became these really large organizations. Again, I'm from Waco, baby. I am from Waco, Texas, and the school I went to, I lived in San Marcos, Texas. This is not, neither of these are big cities. And so I just didn't understand it. Even like income, I talk about it all the time with, our clients, that I thought making $100,000 collectively as like a couple was a lot of money. Like I was like, we make 100K, we're gonna buy a house, and like a 4,000 square foot house, okay? Because I need a big house, and we're having 5 kids on this $100,000 salary. So just none of it didn't make sense. I was in a small town, I was making $12 an hour. That was like the standard. I was making more money than my mom had ever made until she, got her degree. So I thought I was doing good. I just needed to pace myself and wait till I was in my 40s, and then I could become the CEO of something.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there was also, I mean, maybe there was a little bit of like what you're alluding to is like self-doubt. Like you were just like, yeah, I can't do this yet. Like
This isn't for
maybe.
me. I'm not the person. Yeah, this isn't for me. I'm not the person. I don't look like these people. When offices I worked in, so I worked for a small business too out of San Marcos, and even then the like CEO of that company was white. It's a white man. Like my thought process of what CEOs, what leaders looked like, where it was always white men. It was never someone who looked like me. And my family like love my babies, but like I come from a low income family. I am the rich auntie that comes around, and it's like, oh my god, gifts for everybody. So just none of us had that experience. I didn't know to even look for that, and that's always really big for me about people who look like me and who sound like me. Is like, we don't know what we don't know. And so in my head it was like, I'll just do this thing and I'll work my way up in this organization. And in my brain, eventually I could get to being the CEO. It would take me 20 years, but I could probably get there. So we
Facts. Yo, for so long, so I've always, for the most part, I've always been in sales, and even not even CEOs, but like, I mean, you work with a lot of salespeople. Typically, there's like an account manager, some sort of account manager, and there's like an account executive. I always looked at account executives as I can never be an account executive because I've never seen, like, they're typically always white, and they have this quote unquote executive presence that people always refer to, which is kind of like a character, like one of the characters on Suits. Like that's what they look like. They look like a fucking lawyer, slick back hair, cleanly shaven. Like, yeah. So yes, I looked at CEOs and I was like, they don't look like me, but something even as low ranking, if you will, as like just an external facing salesperson, I was like, I can't do that.
It's like, this isn't going to be a thing that I do. Absolutely. It's why I'm real loud about being a CEO. I'm real loud about, there's videos of me like grinding and like holding bottles in my hand, like on our page. Cause it's just like, I need people to see me so that they know they can do this stuff too.
Yeah.
And all of the things that, I've gotten an opportunity to do, I want to be visible, and not visible for solely my own gain. I always say, like, again, authenticity to me is selfish, and I do have to be like authentic. That's a part of the selfishness that exists, but it's also, it's for everybody around me. Cause it's thinking about jobs at TikTok, like thinking about jobs at all of these like different organizations. My first thought isn't that, oh, like there's a black person in that role. There's like a Hispanic person in that role. It's never those. So we're working on it slowly but surely.
Nah, that representation is so important, because oftentimes when I do, speaking engagements and talk to folks, people are like, well, I can't do that. Like, and also I've never seen someone to do that. Like, it's so dope to be able to point to people that look like them and be like, well, if she could do it, why can't you? Right?
Like, this is
but all right. So backtrack to one of your, you don't have to no specifics about, a specific job, but just earlier in your career though, right? Were you comfortable being yourself?
No.
In what ways? Which is fascinating, right? Because you are outside of work becoming so confident.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why? Like, what about when you start working? Are you like?
It's the people around me. It's always going to be that I didn't work with people who looked like me. So the people around me weren't black. I worked in a lot of doctors' offices in like the white part of town. So I didn't work at the offices that accepted like Medicare or Medicaid. I was working at the private, facilities and And so the people who were around me didn't look like what I looked like. And I never wanted to be. I'm from Texas. I'm Southern. I'm a talker. And my middle brother, his family is up from the DMV area. And I lived up there for about a year when I was a kid. And they used to be like, Shaque'l, we asked you like one question. How are you still talking? Like, what the fuck? And so, as a kid, I got instilled in me, you talk too much. And I was always the kid on the folder, like, talks too much in class, talks too much in class. So, it has been instilled in me that I do too much my entire life. So, when I got to these places, it was just like, be quiet. Don't take up too much space. You don't want them to notice you for anything outside of the work that you're doing. So get the work done and engage in the way that you see others engaging. Today, if you were to see me take client calls or anything like that, I sound like what I sound like. And when I was interviewing, a couple years back before I went full time, when people would ask like, what do you think your superpower is? It's like, I get to be authentic with people and I connect with them in a way that they love, and they appreciate me for that. And they believe the shit that I say because I sound like I mean business and I don't sound like I just switched some shit on. So it became a superpower later, but in the moment it was like, no, talk like them. Be like them. Don't take up too much space. Don't talk too much. Because everybody around me didn't look like me. Whether they were, like I said, Hispanic, Latino, or white, I was always the only Black girl in the office. Or if there was another Black person in the office, they were older. And so, older Black women, sit your ass down and shut your ass up. Because you come in here with all that hooping and hollering and doing all of that. So it's always like an older Black woman. So now I'm like, my grandma's going to get me in trouble. So yeah, that didn't change. It took a long time before that changed, of having Black leadership or having other, like, more than just me as a Black person, or seeing white people, but white people that weren't all in like a monolith, white people that weren't the suits like looking people, you know what I'm saying? People who looked like themselves, who had facial piercings. In Austin, one of my first interviews, lady I interviewed with had gauges in her ear, and I was so excited because I was working at a doctor's office that made me take out my nose ring, like kind of thing. And this lady had gauges in her ear working at a doctor's office, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna love it here. Like, this is gonna be great.
I was just about to ask that about, like, what about visuals? Like, what visually compared to now did you not look like? So there was a specific rule, or was it like an unspoken rule around earrings or gauges and stuff like that?
I had a lip ring too at the time. When the big wigs weren't coming in, they would let it slide. But if they knew that corporate was coming in to visit, I had to take my nose ring out. I had a tongue ring at the time. I had to take my tongue ring out, and I think I wound up taking my lip ring out in general. My nails could never look like this. This was never an option. My tattoos were always covered, so I didn't have the lower part of my sleeve. I only had this stuff up here, so like I always had to wear something that covered my tattoos. We wore slacks and button down, like.
Oh my God. Ew.
That was the entire thing, because we wore scrubs at first, and I was like, oh, I love this. And they were like, we need to just differentiate y'all from the back office staff or whatever. So we had to wear slacks and button-down shirts, and it was just cover your tattoos, like button your stuff up, because I have chest tattoos on both sides. Just like button your stuff up. I never wore like big hoops. My nails were never this long. The glasses were never this loud. Like, the haircut has always been here. My hair has been like this, give or take, for the last like 6 or 7 years. But it was this color.
Were all these changes requested of you, or did you just assume you had to make these changes based on who was working around you?
Requested of me. So we
Interesting.
We didn't start there. Like, I came into work wearing what I thought I would normally wear. And I'm a Black girl. I've been wearing hoops since like 10. So like the hoops were always here, kind of thing. But it was just like, hey, like, could you wear earrings that are, a little like less, like they're a little smaller, something that doesn't stand out nearly as much. The glasses were just that was the glasses I wore at the time, but I couldn't dye my hair. I asked about dyeing my hair because I wanted to dye my hair. Told me I couldn't dye my hair an unnatural color. That was the answer, was no dyeing your hair an unnatural color. I was told my tattoos had to be covered, so like I even have a tattoo on my wrist that I had to like wear a watch so that people wouldn't see the tattoo. So tattoos had to be covered as a part of their dress code that they had there. So they now. Dress code that I ever saw in like a handbook? No.
That's what I was gonna say. I'm like, is that just like an unspoken rule based on preferences? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, not a dress code I ever saw in a handbook, but dress code that got like brought up to me because again, I started to feel myself a little bit. And I was like, oh, like I would look cute with some piercings. Got my nose pierced, and I had to get it redone because they made me take it out and it closed. So it was an entire thing. Had to take my tongue ring out. Like that was physically, it was just like, hey, you cannot have this in when they're here, and we don't know when they're gonna be here. And if they come and you have this in your face, you cannot use the excuse of like, I always wear this. Like, I am telling you, you're not supposed to have it. I don't care when the higher ups aren't here though. So it's like leaving me out to dry if they popped in one day. And I didn't know because I work at the front desk. They're not going to miss me. Like, you can't pass me.
You going to be the first person. Yeah.
The first person they see.
How did that feel at the time?
It felt normal. It felt like what I'd experienced. Unfortunately, I went to a predominantly white school, and I'm tall. I'm like 5'9". And so my entire life has been, hey, your skirt's too short. Hey, your shorts are too short. Keep in mind, my mom was already policing my clothes at home. I guarantee you I was not coming to school in anything that was truly out of the ordinary, like nothing like that. But it was, your skirt's too short because I have long legs. Like, you know, your shirt, if you raise your hands, your shirt comes up. I have a long torso. I'm tall. I don't know what you want me to tell you. I got told I wouldn't be able to run in a track meet if I didn't change my hair color. One time I had spent all night doing micros in my hair, doing micro braids because it was, you know, getting into summerish months. It was the second half of school. And I did burgundy on the bottom and black on the top because that was the thing at the time. It's like a little two-tone, you know what I'm saying? The wet and wavy situation. Thought that was going to be so cute. And the principal pulled me out of class and was like, hey, you have until tomorrow to take your hair down or you can't run in the track meet this week. And I was just like, it's a natural hair. Like, they're red-haired people. What are you talking about? I was like, right, but it doesn't grow out of your head, so you can't have that hair color. So I had to undo all the work I'd done, staying up all night to do my hair, just so I could run in a track meet. So this has been my entire life. It's not unusual to me for people to police what I look like for their policies.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's, I'm even just like thinking about, like, I guess it just goes back to what our family says. Is like the principal is probably like, you're representing this school, and we want this school to look us, we want athletes and students to look a certain way. And again, that goes back to like, is there a rule, or like did he just wake up and was like, well, not wake up, but like, my idea of a good looking student is, you know, black hair or whatever.
Your hair will be black. These are your only choices. Yeah, I thought it was fine because at first I thought it was the two-tone thing. I thought it was like two different colors. But a friend of mine who was white had two-tone. Again, this was a thing at the time. Like, everybody was doing this thing. And so her hair was blonde on top, brown on bottom. She was natural blonde. She dyed her hair that color. It wasn't her like natural hair color. And so I thought it was that. And he was like, no, it's that it's red. You aren't allowed to wear, like, you aren't redheaded. Like, red is an unnatural hair color. It was like, there are redheads in the world. It's like, but you aren't a redhead, so you need to change your hair. It was a whole thing. And I had to take out, and we're a great track team, so I didn't want to ever miss a track meet. It's a sport I cared a lot about. So I spent hours that night taking my hair down and redoing my hair the next day to make sure that I could run in the track meet.
Damn, not only is that an example of like, oh shit, I am not accepted, however my personal style is, but it's also an example of like, wait, she just did it? Why can't I do it? Like, there's a level of like, there's an early reference of like, yo, life ain't fair type shit.
Yeah. And I use her as my example all the time. She wore skirts that were on the cusp.
Oh yeah. Oh, that always happens. Yeah.
But she's a shorter person. It's just like, hey,
slimmer chick probably.
I've been fighting people telling me how to look for a long time.
Damn.
It's been unfortunate.
So when did you start saying fuck it?
My second job here in Austin, I went to go work at a tech startup. They did not have a dress code, and I had a leader who, actually a white lady, her name is Kate. We love Kate. Kate works on my team. I had a leader who was very pro me. Like, everything, like, Shaque'l, okay, I see you with the da-da-da-da-da. Like, every, like, time, like, I changed my hair. She's like, and your hair looks fire. I love that. Guys, did y'all see Shaque'l's hair? Like, it's a whole thing. My job right before that, the CEO was a tiny company, like 6-person company, called me Shaq. And I don't like that. So in high school, I was called Shaq. And in high school, it was cute. I'm a fucking adult. My name is 2 syllables. It's not that hard. And so it was just like, please call me Shaque'l. And he wouldn't. He put Shaq on everything. He made that my email. My email was shaq@companyname.com. Shaq everything. It really pissed me off. So when I got here, someone tried to call me Shaq and she would correct them all the time. And then I have an apostrophe in my name. And I never use the apostrophe because it's always a pain in the ass. I use the apostrophe in my name now because at that job, I was like, no, what is your name? Who are you? What is your name? How do you want to be addressed? And it was advocated so much for me by someone who had been there for such a long time and by someone who people respected, and everybody else around me just respected how I wanted to show up. So braids, different blue hair, red hair, all the different things, like getting to do all of those. And at some point, I still did have a couple of clothing commentaries from a place with no dress code and with no HR. But for the most part, it's where I got to start existing more authentically as myself. And not only my leadership, but the teams around me, the people that I worked with. And when I got into leadership, the teams that I managed still respecting me, regardless of the fact that they saw me doing whatever I did on the weekend.
That's beautiful. That's so dope. That's so fascinating too, that you never use your apostrophe until like so recently, because you
like 6 years ago.
Wow.
But there is an apostrophe in my name. And my mom hates it. My mom is always like, why don't you spell your name right? I'm like, it's just difficult. Nobody remembers it. And I don't want to, it's already a difficult name. I don't want to make it more difficult. Like, that was always the thought. I was like, I don't want to make this any more difficult. That's where Shaq came from, was Shaque'l's too hard. Oh, you can just call me Shaq. No, you can't. Please don't do that.
Yeah, yo, that's interesting. That's it's kind of like how I feel about my name when I go into like, any sort of coffee shop where they ask for your name. Sometimes I just be like, yes, Kobe. Yeah, I just be like Phil, Steve, Joe, like,
Anything.
yo, anything, because I'm just like I don't want to go through it. But yeah, I get it. It's frustrating. But all right, so when people do say fuck it though, what I found is that they kind of do it in phases,
Hmm.
right? So they've been faking this for so long, so they show up as their fake self, and then they like, yeah, even if somebody's like, yeah, be yourself, they'd be like, that's just a trap.
I know that.
I'm
Yeah,
a,
you set me up.
maybe, yeah, maybe I'm gonna start off with my glasses. No, maybe I'm gonna start off with my nails. No, maybe I'm gonna start off with this, and incrementally, I'm gonna start building up to this person. But like, what did you do? Did you start with one thing, or you just went all, you
The
just went
name.
for it?
The first thing was the name. So
Interesting.
it was my name. It was asking people to call me by my name, is putting the apostrophe in my name. I think from there that was just the clothes really came from figuring out style. Because again, remember I came from an office where I had a uniform. I didn't, I had to wear the same thing every day, so it didn't matter what I wore.
Looking
And so,
like Jake
like
from State Farm over
it's
here.
literally like in the pediatric office. It's like so he's like, but it's the name came first. I feel like clothes came with me figuring out style, and then I would push the envelope a little further. And so at this job I did, we again, smaller company, so once a year the CEO did a party at her house. She lived very close to the office, and she had a big ass house, and so she would do this summer like party at her house, and like little waiters with hors d'oeuvres and shit. It was really cool. And I wore a crop top shirt, and I call them clapper pants. I don't know what
I
y'all.
know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about.
I worked. Now I put this outfit on. I took a picture of it. I sent it to Kate because Kate was my manager at the time, and I said, "Hey, how do you feel about this outfit? Like, can I wear this today?" And she was like, "Yeah, it'll be fine." I was like, "Okay." And so it was my first time showing stomach at work. I got these pants on, like the whole thing. I wore that all day to work because the party was right after work. I wasn't going home to change, so I wear this all day to work. I go to the party, and then the next Monday, that's on like a Thursday. The next Monday, the office manager, not the HR lady, like pulls me into an office and is like, "We just don't think that like crop tops are acceptable, and your pants were kind of thin and da 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 da." But keep in mind, my other coworkers are wearing workout tights and
Mm.
like bras with the shirts with the cutouts on them, so I'm seeing the skin. And so I pushed the envelope there until like I got pushed back, and so I never wore that outfit again. But I was like, okay, cool, I now know the limit. Like I now know where I can go to, so like let me play up against that. So yeah, it was just small steps, and as I got more confident, that's when I started getting my nails longer.
Mm.
It's when I started doing different stuff to my hair. So dyeing my hair, I grew it out enough to get braids. I had braids down to my knees. Just all the different little things to see like what people would let me do. And then after that, it was the pandemic, so it didn't matter. I was at home.
What
Nobody
did
gets
the, what did
there.
what did the pandemic do for you? Because you're also letting people into your home. So a
Yeah.
lot of people, they don't want to show their background, they blur it out.
Yeah.
A lot of people became comfortable with themselves. Yeah. A lot, like, you got a lot of personal stuff back there. You got
Yeah.
pictures, it looks like, of family and
Absolutely. No,
friends.
yeah, this is my little friends board. So this is my best friend. This is her son. Both of those pictures. These are all sorts of things. This is my vision board for the year. This was a little plaque that I got from one of my doctors. It matches this one. I love you more than bacon because I really like bacon. All of the conferences I've attended and I've spoke at because that was a really big goal for me this year. And then my stuffy corner with like all of my stuffies everywhere. And then yeah, so we've got all the things. I was like, this gonna be my backdrop. This is very authentically me.
Yeah, a lot of that was like a big insecurity for people. Like I
Yeah.
remember when I first started doing, I think I was still working at Facebook when the pandemic started, but I was very adamant of like it had to be a white background wall
Mm-hmm.
for a long time. And eventually I'm just like, fuck it, I'm taking this from my bed. I don't care where I'm at. But did that also like increase your confidence of giving less of a fuck?
Not from work, it didn't.
Okay.
Because at the time, right when the pandemic happened, so I left the company I was at and I went to Google. So I went to a big, like very big organization from a very small organization. I was there for a week and then the world shut down. Like we just didn't know the thing was happening, and then it did. So I had just gotten started there. And to me, and it's nothing Google specific, it's just to me, Google was such a big girl job. Like that other job, while it
Yeah.
was a big girl job, like it just was like, shit, cool. We everybody cool here. You know what I'm saying? It's a startup. Everybody chill, whatever. This was like, oh no, like I gotta have all my ducks in a row. Things have to be perfect. And I don't think I ever felt comfortable there. And that's not a them problem. I just didn't, I never quite got to like mesh and gel in because the pandemic happened. So, and as I was a contractor too. So as a contractor, I'm spending less time engaging with all of the like team and so on and so forth. So like to me, I reclused even more. I did want clear, hey, blur out everything. I don't want you to see anything. I'm always where I need to be. I'm never going to take this call from my car or from my couch, or anything like that. But when I got to TikTok, so that was my next role after that. When I got there, I went back. Like I think I got back into the like they hired me because they want me to work here. And if I'm going to be one of the first faces that people see when they get here, I want to encourage other people to be comfortable being themselves. So I am going to try to be as much of myself so that way they do this too. If I want to see this change, and not necessarily that TikTok needed the change, if I want to see this change in the corporate or tech world, I am going to have to be a part of that change. And the way that I can do that is being as authentic as I can when people first get here. So they are as authentic as they are. They don't get shut down when they first start, and then they got to build it back up. I'm building this shit from day one. Come spend time with me. I'm going to play a playlist that has Lil Wayne on it. Let's go.
Yeah. Nah, it really makes a big impact. And like, it's not even a joke that you're the first person that people see. Like, you were literally the first person that I saw outside of my team. And I don't remember what the orientation order of shit was, but yeah, you're one of the first people that I saw, and it made me feel, as someone who started working at TikTok during the pandemic. Yeah, I've only been I visited the TikTok office once for an offsite, like, and that was before it was even built out to what it is now.
I got you. Yeah.
That should look like a it didn't even look like a WeWork.
Crazy. Like, it is.
Yeah, it was just like a bunch of open offices. It looked like there was mad old cubicles. Like, it wasn't a TikTok office. So I don't even know where I was going with that. But it was comforting from someone that was working from home all day and not sort of seeing coworkers. It was comforting seeing you being like, I could be myself here.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Thank you. I love this. This is the vibes. This is what he's going for.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure it's not just me, right? So when you are on social media, because you're also big on the content creation, and people see you and you talk about the work that you're doing and the how much you're changing people's lives, but now you're a CEO, right? Now you are the representation that people have been looking for, but then you look different than what you originally thought a CEO was supposed to look like. Tell me about positive messages and DMs that you get from people when they finally see you.
All the time. People have told me that I make them believe that, like, them being better is possible, them being great is possible, that where they can get to is they just places they never thought that they could. And that's what's really important for me. The conference we did earlier this year was in very typical Shaque'l vibes. And one of the best compliments we got from that was, this felt like a cookout with your family and your cousins, but instead of, like the uncle on the grill with the sandals and red Solo cups, we had champagne and like luxury, but it still had those vibes. And that was so important to me, because my goal is always to show Black people and people of color that, like, look at what we can fucking do. And knowing that small adjustment, like how $30,000 to a lot of people doesn't seem like much, but if you're making 30K and I can get you to 60, if you're making 50 and I can get you to 80, it's life-changing money for so many people. And people are just like, I get to be myself. They're like, I take these interesting questions, because I use very authentic questions in interviews. And they're like, I get to ask those questions. A friend of mine, her friend followed me. She likes movies, and she found out the person she was interviewing with liked movies. And so as a part of her closing questions, she was like, if you could describe this job as a movie title, what would it be? And the person was just blown away by the question, but she got to be authentic in something she loved and ask, because most people are like, tell me more about the role and what's the culture like? And so letting people just get to be themselves, it's one of the most powerful things I've ever. And hearing from others about how they can show up as themselves and feel really confident in it, and how they feel like they don't have to code switch. Code switching is huge for me. Like, I'm like, you're going to be exhausted. You're going to be exhausted trying to sound different through the interview and through the things and whatever. Sound like what you sound like, be who you are. And if the opportunity doesn't align, then you never wanted to work there to begin with.
Facts.
Hearing how, like, people are like, oh, I feel so encouraged by that. When I get no's, I don't feel like as frustrated. It's not to say it's not frustrating, but I don't feel as frustrated, because I understand that wasn't going to align for me. Like, my authenticity deserves to be somewhere it can flourish. I'm like, yes, like, if we can do nothing else, this is it. This is the goal the entire time. So yes, positive.
I love that. Yeah, and people are never gonna do their best work if they're spending half of their energy and time and everything being somebody they're not.
Trying to adjust. Did I do this thing wrong? Did I show up like this wrong? It's why I do, when I had a fade, content in a do-rag. Content in a do-rag. Content in a head wrap. We're gonna figure it out. The content is just gonna come out regardless, because it's like, hey, cool, I convinced organizations to pay me hundreds of thousands of dollars looking like this and showing up like this and talking like this. Do it too. You know what I'm saying? Like, do it too. And TikTok had a good influence, I feel like, personally on me. I don't know if you were there for the what was it? There was a girl went viral for shaving her crotch, and I think she was like, shave your cooch or some shit. And then whatever shaving cream company it was, they brought them onto like an all hands and they did a thing and they literally put it on a bottle, like shave your fucking cooch. And like, it was just entire, so like when I went to that all hands, I was like, you say cooch at work? Done. Y'all got it. Y'all, I'm not playing now another edited song in my damn onboarding calls ever again. Like, I've been worried about people cussing, and you're over here saying cooch in front of 10,000 people. Like,
Yo, I'm not gonna lie. I had like team all hands that I would host
yeah.
every month, and I would also play. I'll play mostly hip hop songs, and I was actually kind of worried about it at first, but I was like, yeah, fuck it. But if I saw that Cooch video, I would have had no worries at all.
But she like brought a like executive from the shaving cream company on, and she is saying, and I'm like, this lady's like 55. The room is off. Like I was like, I don't have to worry about shit here. I'm gonna do whatever I want. It doesn't matter. It no longer matters.
Yo, that's hilarious. All right, last question. I think you kind of answered this already, but I'll just end with this. Like, obviously, you're not done growing. There's so much more for you to do.
So many things.
What's the one thing that inspires you to continue being your most authentic self?
Every time someone tells me about their like life-changing experience, they wouldn't have found me if I wasn't being my authentic self. I wouldn't go viral in the ways that I do. My content wouldn't reach in the ways that it does if I wasn't being authentic. Sometimes I gotta cuss motherfuckers out, you know what I'm saying, on the internet, and like it is what it is, you know what I'm saying. All of these things, all of it leans like lends itself to it. And so if someone found me through that authenticity, and even if they still don't feel like they get to be their most authentic self, my authenticity helped them because it spread the reach, it spread the message, it got them the information that they needed to, and it hopefully encouraged them, because a lot of career coaches don't look like me, or when they do look like me, they are executive career coaches, and so you talk a certain way, you look a certain way, you little pearls and da 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 da, and like all of this stuff, and it's like no. I am trying to make the most impact that I can, and I'm not going to make that with executives. I'm going to make that with the people who work in food service. I'm going to make that with the people who work in hospitality, with the people who work in call centers, who are busting their asses, making $7.25 or $11, $15 an hour, and again, getting these people to, even if it's just $50, $60, $70,000, what a difference that's making for them. So I feel it. I feel so empowered every single time someone tells me that they are somewhere different. They get to spend more time with their babies now because of me. They get to go on vacations now because of me and my team and the work that we've gotten to do. That it pushes me so much. It pushes me over and over again when I'm exhausted. Being a CEO is one of the hardest jobs I've ever done. And so like those are the things that it's just like, I need this, and I feel so grateful for it, even if I can't help them directly, individually, right? It's the opportunity when I host boot camps or host free shit and people come through and they're like, yo, I got a $50,000 salary increase from coming to your free thing. And I'm like, that is why I'm doing this. I know that everybody can't, but that's why I'm doing it. So every last one of those messages, it really makes a difference. I'm grateful for people for sharing, because I know talking about money makes people really uncomfortable. So every time they do, I'm just like, thank you. I needed this. You know, you may not know how much it impacted me. Like I impacted you, but this impacts me so very much. And I feel so good and so confident in the work that I get to do. It makes me keep moving, you know? So good things.
I love that.